Hi there. Today's video will be covering what I believe to be the most interesting enemy in Heretic, the Iron Lich. Picture this memory, for you may have experienced it yourself in your first playthrough of Heretic. You've made it to E1M8, Hell's Maw, just tore through all these undead warriors, gargoyles, and nitro golems. Perhaps you found the secrets in that level too. Eventually, you open the door leading to a lava-filled arena, and depending on the difficulty you've chosen, you'd see 1 to 3 of these creatures in the distance. You knew they were enemies, but you had no idea what you were in for when you went in. Once you fired, they fired back. And not only that, they fired various attacks at you. Of course, you overcame their strange attacks and defeated them all. But perhaps a thought lingered in your mind, even subconsciously, about these enemies. Those attacks they fired, how did they work? Well, I'm going to explain them in a bit, but first, let me give you some basic details about the Iron Lich. Naturally, the Iron Lich is considered the boss enemy of the first episode of Heretic. Each one has a health pool of 700, making him the 3rd or 4th tankiest enemy in the game. This is depending on whether or not you consider the Sparrow's 2 phases separate enemies. When you kill the Iron Liches, they have a chance to drop the Morph Ovum or an energy orb for the Dragon Claw. In total, if you include the expansion and the Fate's Path levels, you will encounter 81 to 112 Iron Liches depending on the difficulty. In the game code, both the source and the iWAD, they're simply called heads. I guess the name fits the bill since they're effectively hovering skulls. Speaking of that, don't let their hovering appearance fool you. They don't fly, thankfully. That is, unless you're playing with certain mods that make them fly. Truly cursed. As mentioned in the weapons videos, they are vulnerable to the Phoenix Rod and the powered up Hell Staff, with the latter being useful due to the fact that they do not have damage resistance to it. They are, however, resistant or outright immune to the powered up Dragon Claw and its rippers, and cannot be chickified by the Morph Ovum, which means you cannot make chickens out of skulls. They also aren't particularly vulnerable to the powered up Fire Mace, though they used to be in the older versions. The Iron Lich has not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 4 different attacks. The first attack is the most basic. It's a melee attack that can deal anywhere between 6 to 48 damage. That is more than a Molothar's melee attack. Those sharp teeth they got aren't just for gritting, it seems. Naturally, you don't want to be up close to these boneheads, so what kind of projectiles do they fire? Well, one attack is literally fire. This firewall attack shoots 6 projectiles that individually deal 5 to 40 damage. If you get hit by all 6 of them, and you get a bad roll from each, you're in for a world of pain, even if you have one of the shield pickups and are at full health. However, it's hard to miss and usually easy to dodge unless you find yourself in cramped spaces. Those are some very basic attacks, but the next one is a little trickier. To go with his fire attack, the Lich also has an ice attack. He shoots a sharp ball of ice that deals 1 to 8 damage. Yes, that sounds pathetic at first, but then you find out the hard way that upon contact with any surface, including you, the ice ball shatters into 8 shards in an octagonal pattern. Those individual shards deal anywhere from 3 to 24 damage. If you get hit by the ice ball, you're going to get hit by a lot of those shards. A few bad rolls with the ice ball can potentially kill you, especially if you manage to run into his extra shards. One way you can potentially avoid getting hit with the ice ball, aside from dodging it naturally, is using the Shadow Sphere. The ice ball will go right through you, which will help you avoid getting hit by not only the ball, but the worst of its shards. The final attack in the Iron Lich's arsenal is the most mysterious. When you hear this sound, you might want to start running. This attack is a whirlwind, and while it might not damage you that much, it can potentially put you out of position and into danger with ease. The worst part about the whirlwind is the fact that it homes in on you, and at its absolute worst, the whirlwind can last up to 20 seconds. However, you can avoid having the whirlwind lock onto you by also using the Shadow Sphere. If you don't have a Shadow Sphere, you can also get it to hang up on surfaces like walls and certain decorative objects. This is due to the fact that it can only turn up to a maximum of 30 degrees. What many people wondered, including myself, was why would it dissipate on surfaces sometimes, and other times just hang around on walls for the full 20-second duration? Well, I think I've cracked the code to an extent. Every 3 ticks after the Iron Lich summons the Whirlwind, it calls upon an action called A_Whirlwind Seek. This is how the Whirlwind homes in on a player, or whatever enemy the Iron Lich is firing the projectile at. Every time this action is called upon, the Whirlwind's health is reduced by 3, and its special 2 state is reduced by 3 as well. The health pool is mostly redundant since it's coded to last 20 seconds either way, but its special 2 state is its timer for playing its active sound. Initially, it starts at 50. The Seek action would need to be called around 17 times for it to set the special 2 state to 0. When it does, it will play the active sound and sets its special 2 state to a value between 58 and 90. The special 2 status will continue to be lowered as long as a whirlwind Seek is called upon or until the whirlwind dissipates due to its hard-coded timer. So what does special 2, the timer for playing the active sound, have to do with the whirlwind dissipating? Well, if the special 2 state is below 60, the dissipating state, P-Explode Missile, is not called when the whirlwind collides upon a vertical surface. A whirlwind Seek also appears to only be called when the whirlwind is capable of moving towards a player. Unless sometimes when it can move vertically, then that movement doesn't count. Anyways, the whirlwind doesn't lock onto the player when using the Shadow Spear, but the special 2 appears to be lowered nonetheless when the whirlwind moves. This results in it sometimes dissipating on walls depending on the distance traveled and therefore time, or more accurately ticks, spent getting there. So what causes the Iron Lich to do all these attacks anyway? It's mostly random actually. There's a bit of a deciding factor to it though, and it all depends on whether or not you're within 512 map units of an Iron Lich or not. You'll know you're that close when the Iron Lich starts firing certain projectiles more often. Of course, melee attacks are only called upon when you're face to face with the Lich. When you're close but not that close, the Lich has a 20% chance to fire an Ice Ball, and a 40% chance for both the Firewall and Whirlwind attacks respectively. When further than 512 map units from the Iron Lich, his attack action has a 60% chance to spawn an Ice Ball, and a 20% chance for both the Firewall and the Whirlwind attacks. So that's the basics of the Iron Lich. As you can tell, his Whirlwind attack is without a doubt the most complicated one, but if you use it wisely, you can speedrun certain levels quite easily and even grab certain items early on as well. Most of the time, however, he's quite the threat due to this attack taking you out of position, and his other attacks aren't so weak either. When it comes to enemy priority, if you have the ammo for it, you should put these guys at the top in many situations. Though perhaps if you'd rather not fight them, you'd be content with putting them in situations where they can fight themselves. Yeah, like that. Anyways, that's all I have for you guys. If you liked the video, thumb it up, and if you want, you can support me with my Ko-fi link in the description. Never necessary, but always appreciated. You can also join my Discord with the link in the description as well. Thanks for watching, and until next time, toodaloo.